Galio in the mid lane, Clement, that's a lot of all-in too. I also see quite a bit of scaling to match.
Exactly. I feel like if this goes to the late game, I still favor Impunity's comp a little bit. Let's be honest, at the end, Kled is still a crazy midget in the late game, so I still feel like Gwen's a lot better as a champion.
Yeah.
And Impunity also has that Galio that does provide that sort of anti-crowd control in. So I do like Impunity's composition, but usually when we see these type of comps, it's really about who can find the better angles for these engages. Overall, though, I would say because of the AD builds, Dewish team is expected to be a little bit stronger around the first Herald and the first couple of Drakes.
Well, for Dewish team, that early game then, we're going to see how it kicks off, because if they win this game, then it means that teams like J-Team don't get to sit there and lock in playoffs. It means that other teams who hit 8, if possible, today won't have that opportunity in front of them. Dewish team keeps it competitive. They make it so teams have to work for it, but Impunity can be the friend to that top teams in the bubble. If they win, then J-Team are locked in, guaranteed, with Dewish team unable to hit 8 wins. So it's a very big day. It's a very big start to week number 5, the penultimate week of the PCSs. We get an invade and a backstopped on WSL, who on this Kiana, now going to start to clear off a little bit low.
It doesn't look like they will full commit into the late jungle invade, though. The 3v3, not something that they can reliably win here, but they do take a lot of time out of WSL's pathing here, and I'm not sure WSL saw that ward in his own red buff. This switcheroo, I guess it's fine. He does start in on time, but he does have to walk a lot of distance for it. Kled early on, he has a really strong level 1, but he typically does need to wait until level 3, kind of for the trades, and later on, not all that powerful, I would say. So I really want to see how they use this Kled. I think it's mainly sort of a team fight. A team fight pick coming in for Dewish team. I'm really looking at sort of getting kills down into the mid lane.
As you said, getting things sped up in these first couple of objectives too. We're just looking at laning phase, and LZ and Yusin have the shove here on this Yuumi Sivir. It's a lane that, Clement, obviously PCS fans haven't heard too much about, but we have come into this new meta, and Sivir Yuumi right now, by LPL bottom lane standards, is just such a big deal.
Yeah, we have to talk about the Sivir buffs right here. I think the biggest thing off the bat is the fact that you can actually double your damage on her boomerang by building crit.
Oh, yeah.
So that's the biggest change right there. It gives her a lot of laning power. And second of all, the ricochet actually can bounce onto the same target twice now. Before we go even deeper, though, we have to see if this Sivir can survive this surprise.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big question, right? The spell shield, is it there? No, but standing in place, holding onto the summoners apart from Ghost, trying to turn it around. Even the damage there, Clement, was significant enough, and it's a good gank time from WSL, but with only the Ghost, LZ will be happy enough to return.
Oh, yeah, I'm always a little bit sad when we see Kleds miss all the CS with that paragraph on the ramp. I still think this is not a particularly easy lane to play into. Your trade windows are sometimes quite predictable here, and you can tell Jackpot knows what's happening in this matchup. Lacune trying to remount right here. He does have the violent tendencies, so, easy thing for Jackpot to just walk away from.
Yeah, I mean, Jackpot on this Gwen as well. Hasn't picked up a win yet, but it's still one of his most favored champions. We already talked about the Gwen buffs too as well with that ult in the late game. But we'll be looking a little bit closer as the lane, as Lacune is getting close to remounting, but still in a dangerous territory, while Alex gets control for Impunity in the top side with the Scuttle. Double Scuttle actually here for this Wukong, while WSL, we saw Clement, his time was invested in the gank, but it does mean that Alex is going to have a much better early game here, with a couple of camps to go on top of that too.
Yeah, very weak gank into the bot lane. Didn't get any... actually did get one summoner from LZ, as we do have the Ghost down. Another thing I do want to pay attention to is this Galio still going for the Predator. We know that the Predator was nerfed quite heavily on 12.12. You lose a lot of initial movement speed and a bit of damage here on it. So you can tell that Impunity are actually still thinking about fighting early game with early game right here. I don't think that they're going to shy away from a lot of these early plays. that I kind of expect to go the way of Dewish team. We'll see how that one plays out, but this Predator does tell me that they are willing to fight fire with fire. He didn't take something that is much more beneficial into the late game, like the Aftershock.
I mean, how clumped up is it going to be, though, if we get these early fights? Galio ulti, Wukong ulti, Kled ults in, you know, Azir's got his wall at close range, WSL with a supreme display of talent. Like, everything is in a very small space, and it's not like the big ranged members are going to be relevant in these first couple of fights either, right?
Yeah, I think earlier on, it's just going to be about who can get to the position first. And I still do give a little bit of a lead over to Dewish team's combo. I feel like their combo is easier to execute. You know, you just press the Kled ultimate, you run at people, and then Qiyana comes in from the side. While in Impunity's end, I feel like Gwen is fairly weak early on, and then you have to coordinate on how this Galio can actually enter the fight. You know, Galio typically actually kind of easy to kill earlier on. You know? First item, not that big of a problem coming into it. So I do think if I'm Dewish team, I do want to get into the fights a little bit early, and you can see they already have the Drake completely lined up here. I don't think that Kled is going to find a lot of advantages against the Gwen, so going bot lane is probably the call.
I mean, you can already see, look at Jackpot trying to get him into a small skull here as Lacunite is not 6 yet. Jackpot is, and with an Ignite available, that's the danger. And while we're speaking of Dragon, I mean, WSL's going to try and match this invade from Alex. As the camp gets smited a bit early, Alex still gets out with a big chicken. WSL trading off for the rest, but that's still a level 5 Wukong. WSL, as he tries to take the ward, Alex is just forcing him off for the time being, so neutral's not looked at for now. Instead, it is just still massive clearing going on from both jungles.
Yeah, and we have a very decided lead for Alex right here. He should be hitting level 6 first, and that could be the opportunity that Impunity tries to find an objective fight with. On the other hand, we do have WSL coming in with the assassin items. I'm very curious on which one he is going to get on 12.13. You do get 5% extra movement speed. Not 5%, 5 extra movement speed, excuse me, on the mythic bonuses right there. So I think the builds are a little bit more viable. The last time we saw Kongria go into this Qiyana, it was the Eclipse build still. Not the Prowlers for maximum damage, just the Eclipse to get a little bit more position.
I feel like we've seen so many builds. At one point as well, pre-season or pre-summer split, a lot of Kianas are building the Gordring. We had this small window where Assassins felt weak that they were building these kind of juggernaut items. I'm glad we're away from that. It's more fun seeing a Qiyana with lethality, as at this point, a bit of a comparison here. Top side, the biggest opportunity right now is Jackpot is up 20 CS, almost 5 gold. Yeah, you pointed out this Kled not having real easy time in the lane, and we haven't seen him get outside of it yet. 8 minutes in, you know, we're still waiting for those ults to come across. Jackpot's going to keep that lane going for his support at this point.
Yeah, that's kind of the issue with Kled right here, is that your trade windows are very predictable. So I think at a certain level, he's quite hard to play in the top lane. Mid lane's different. I think mid lane Kled works a lot better because you typically just outstat someone. And I think that, you know, this is kind of expected of top lane Kled. So this is why that you have to make use of this champion earlier on, try to get him to snowball, or else he does look rather weak just riding through a normal laning phase.
You know, one of those champions that we see in metas where we get a lot of mobility, right? Like Galio, Leah, feels like he's a champion that, you know, can utilize on that. And we're still game, but as we see the Herald starting up, 8 minutes 50 here. A little bit Impunity, the ones to kick it off, but Lacunite has the charge available. And look at the numbers that the Galio ball. The Jewish team are in first and jacking the sun up, but it might not matter. For the response, Lacunite is getting low here. No ounce of abilities, Ignite doesn't take him over. Herald goes down and Impunity with the counter punch. First blood.
Huge play with the Yuumi right there, able to get into the fight and make it still a 4v4. We thought at the start of that fight, Dewish team had the numbers advantage, but we forgot about the cat on the book. Flying into the team fight midway right there. let's watch that again, where the Yumi is. Oh, he was already starting on Alex. So at the start of it, 4v3, but Galio comes in, gets the protection down, unable to burst anyone from the side of Dewish team right here, and they don't really get a good angle on the wall knock either. So
yeah.
I feel like it was a little bit scattered, and you know, Galio just kind of dampened their efforts.
And I feel like you know, we talked a little bit about the response, but it's great when Dewish team want to get ahead early, and it's great when, you know, for Impunity, we talked about how much this matches in the standing of J team. With that first blood as well, Clement, even though it goes to Houston, the goal lead is going to be significant enough to look at what happens because of it, because the top lane is all rushing down on the
Yeah.
There's a Herald there about options for this neutral, because it feels like every other lane is more or less even here in Dewish team's favor.
Yeah, in terms of the situation, I feel like Dewish team, you know, they still have those late game options to kind of think about. The Azir and the Zeri are definitely there. But if you go to that late point stage, Kled just, you know, he's kind of like half a champion. I think he's like 70% of a champion when it comes to the hyper late game, even with the 12.13 buffs coming in. So, like, for Dewish team, yeah, if the early game fails, they do have comeback mechanics, but I think their overall potential does drop down below that of Impunity. So, for Impunity right now, I feel like it's fairly straightforward what they want to do. They can just easily run down the top and then just swoop across the map, have that Gwen start to pressure elsewhere. You know, Gwen could even show up in mid lane and have Galio start to roam just with the heroic entrance, and that would be a lot of headaches for Dewish team.
And you think about the position Alex is in as well. I mean, this Wukong can make a lot happen. It's down the bottom lane. Grand display of talent again. LZ burning and he's dead. Now Houston with no one to mount on top. He's going to be under turret, but he is a quick combo away from dying. And how here, and no flash available. Pulverized to a guaranteed kill. WSana is smacking down. Meanwhile, the response play from Alex, who makes him go into mini Kled. About to remount though, and he does onto Alex. Bear trap on a rope. The outplay so close to Alex, hoping for the red buff, but Lacune survives and makes it a bit longer for Impunity to get that trade.
This is definitely a massive win for the side of Dewish team right here. Top lane tower, honestly, Impunity should have been able to get that just with the raw Herald drop anyway. But in the meantime, they're able to waste time from the jungler. They're able to get a double kill on the bot and also shut down this Sivir, which has a monster late game, as we talked about in the 12.13 patch changes here. So I think a huge find for Dewish team. Definitely a favorable trade for them.
But in the top side, Lacune saves himself. We have to look at what it costs Clement, because Herald gets first turret for blood. I believe in the end, Impunity are up by about 1,000 gold, 500, excuse me. So that Lacune gets forced out where he's 40 CS down at the moment on this jam. But the Gwen is in such a firm position.
I will say he used to be an initiation bot, and he's still now an initiation bot. So honestly, not much lost for Dewish team. A lot gained on the other side of the map, as we do have Zeri coming in with the completed first item, Immortal Shield Bow. As we all know, those sustained mythic items make those fights so difficult for the enemy team. They have to burst you down, or else you can just heal right up. So I feel like Dewish team, you know, even with how bad the top lane has gone, are finding themselves in a very strong position in the next couple of objective fights.
You even look at Bang too, like he's 300 gold over Jackpot. So even despite that, excuse me, massive CS lead, it's the plating we saw in the bottom of the turret as the trade as Xiao2 comes deep into the bottom lane. There's the needlework. Clement, are you ready? Doesn't hit, but Xiao2 lucky to be alive. Now response from Dewish team is supreme display of talent. Is going to display something to Jackpot here. At melee range, the ult comes through. He's stunned up, and WSL's early damage is insane. 3-0, the improvement you stated, well and truly there for us to see.
Oh boy, WSL, I don't know what this guy did at the middle of the split. It was week 3 and then week 4, and he feels like a completely different player. They're feeding him something. I don't know what it is, but I think he's definitely my most improved player of the entire split.
Dude, you and I were criticizing him early on. It was like, we kind of questioned whether this man knew how to pass. It was that desperate, right? They're a bottom tier team, and it was like, as a jungler, Does he have the core fundamentals down? And now we're going beyond that with beautiful timings like that, and it's almost 2-item start to this game for them. The Dewish team, they reverse the gold lead, put it back in their favor. They've got their first Dragon Clement as well, and with WSL eventually going to be pathing down here, there's like that second Dragon is something with that ultimate almost back up and available that Dewish team could be confident in.
Absolutely here, and I do want to see one of these teams try to get a pick here. Both of these teams, very high mobility. If they can find someone, they can chase him down. And as we've mentioned, you do have that reset now on Sivir. So 1 kill is all you need, and you can chase down everyone else. With the zoomies there, with the Q on that Uni, it's very hard to run away from you once you already have a solid lead into the fight. So I feel like Impunity can try to play this a little bit trickier. They can try to draw out Dewish team in different positions and just try to pick one up.
Impressive though, because for Dewish team, not going for this Dragon fight, instead they want to go to Herald trade. It's something we don't really see teams do that much, considering the priority put on these Dragons, even in 12.13. Clement, we're going to get this Herald trade, and it means that they're just going to try and break some of these outer turrets, give like Hyundai a bit more comfortability and time to roam around.
Yeah, this is, I would say, you know, fairly equal trade. A post 14-minute Herald means no plates to be gained here. Most likely you're going to use it on mid lane to try and crack open the map even further. Indeed, they're going to go for that already. Sivir does have a lot of wave clear, but she is outnumbered right here, and I think Dewish team should be able to take this.
Yeah, and guess who the gold goes to yet again? It's Bang 2 who shares in the reward. So this Zeri in a very comfortable position too, and you know, we're still seeing it being a top tier pick in this patch. We're still seeing Zeri take over games. And we kind of talked a little bit about this Dewish team with the Spike Clement, but we also know that there's strong scaling elements in there too, like the Azir, like the Zeri, that can play around a lot of the disrupt that we talked about with some of the unique picks in this game.
Yeah, I think the way Zeri changes this matchup is the divers on Impunity really have to go for this champion. They can't let Zeri just sit in the back along with the Azir just pelting at them. So, you know, playing front to back for Impunity, not really an option in most of these team fights still. They do need to go for backline trades in this situation. Use that Yuumi to try to knock someone down. That's how I see the fights having to go for Impunity. But they also have other avenues to play through. I think this Gwen is still absolutely massive coming in to the top side. They can try to draw people out with the 4-1 and then collapse and catch people on. So for Dewish team, I still think they should stick relatively close together. You don't want to get caught out by your lonesome. And then you just try to play for hard objectives. That's probably what's going to happen in this game. I don't expect Dewish team to give a lot of options.
I mean, look as well, playing with each other seems like what they're already doing, but playing with the Kiana as well. I mean, WSL has an Eclipse, and so that is one-shot territory this early on as well.
Ooh.
Even against people like Husky, so much burst damage. The first, second item picked up in the game, and you can even see WSL is just waiting, looking to expose one of these lanes.
It's really about the angles of this fight, but I think Dewish team should understand that even though they have a rushing comp, they don't need to rush in first. They have the much more valuable backline at this point in the game. So I feel like they can use most of their engage tools as sort of counter-engage. They can actually play for taking over vision and taking over positioning rather than what they did in the first Herald, which is just charge.
I think the Emperor's Divide helps with that too, right? Like there's a lot of those tools, as you said, the utility that diversifies how they play the comp is kind of fun. That's why this draft looks so fun, is we're kind of waiting to see who pulls the trigger first at the very least. But both teams playing it safe around this next Dragon timer, which is going to be up in about a minute 50, minute 45. We got Baron coming up in a minute 10 too. And Dewish team are controlling vision around this objective. And I will say one thing, Clement, at the very least for Dewish team, Baron gets done pretty quickly as well. And that's something I feel like they want to threaten, as they're now threatening topside too.
Yeah, we do have to remember that's a Leandri's Anguish being built by Xiao too, so a lot of extra % damage being done here. Husky, I don't think he sees it.
And now he's just justice punched in, the taunt backwards. Emperor's Divide as Husky goes golden. That means the Supreme Display of Talent does nothing. Good counter here from Impunity, as Enhao is going to be the target. And with that follow-up from Predator and Everfrost being flashed away, Dewish team are the ones losing out. Teleport burn, no response elsewhere, apart from Lacunai just pushing down the mid lane.
A good attempt right there coming in from Dewish team. Husky able to get out at the very end right there, and we do see a reset here. I do feel like this is a good opportunity for Impunity to actually just clear out the top side. I'm not sure if they're going to fall and engage onto this one. I feel like in order for them to win an engage like this, they need some sort of a flank. They need to get Bang 2 and Azir down.
Now, again, you already talked about it, how you do that, because each and every time Dewish team listening to your advice, they group together. Yeah. And it's just been, you know, despite the attempt not working out, it's still been clean enough. Lacunai just sits on the side lane by himself, and as he gets this bottom side push, Clement, I want to look towards this objective because it's going to be Infernal. Number 3 here is Spawn to Soul. And Dewish team are already gearing up for the pick, and look, Lacunai still has the charge. No one's nearby. He's going to use it around the corner. It's just out of range of Jackpot. Still the movement speed. He flashes forward, but he's got his passive on his W. However, that was ambitious to say the least, as WSL took damage too. Teleport's coming in. Lacunai knows the only way out is through. And as Husky starts to run down with Predator, this is going to give up the Dragon. Flash again, not used well. Dewish team have just been caught with their pants down.
That was a weirdly ambitious play coming in from Dewish team, and a poorly executed one as well. They missed all of their initial crowd control. They did not land the bear trap on a rope on the side of Lacune, even after he flashed for that, and they didn't land the ultimate. Also, they missed the stun coming in from WSL. So all the execution mistakes that could have happened right there did happen. They were duly punished for it, and I'm a little bit disappointed. I feel like Dewish team had a very strong grasp in this point in the fight. They had the carries with the better completed items here, and just completely whipped. Didn't try to play to their win conditions.
And look, you know, it was the first time as well where they've been grouped as a 2-man and try to make something happen. And you know, Lacune right in this game has been the one that's been bullied. Doesn't really do that much work considering he doesn't have himself the Titanic yet, which we all know Kleds love.
Yep.
And so we look at the item difference in the top lane. Jackpot just went back and picked up the Shadow Flame. Ooh. So that ulti is going to hurt so much, especially when you consider that this team does have some form of shielding. And more importantly, is going to be shredded immediately with the strength of this Gwen early on, Clement. 2 items for big carries across this team too. So now with the Dragon under their belt, it does feel like they are moving into this mid-game at a very good point where those scaling elements, are in such a comfortable position.
Shadow Flame definitely going to be a great ability against something like Living Battery and Immortal Shield build coming in. So that Zeri is going to have to pick her targets correctly here. And I think we are getting into the point where we can see some Sivir play start to come out. I think Sivir is still incredibly powerful. If she's able to survive the initial burst from Impunity, and you have targets that are bunched up together, like if Bang 2 and Xiao 2 stand too close to each other, they could very easily fall down. Again, I feel like the game is moving towards a more equal state. It's going to be about who can get the better flank angles onto each other. I could see very easily Impunity bursting out the entire backline from Dewish team.
I feel like it's, you know, it's getting to the point of being inevitable. But as you said, there's always the opportunity for Dewish team. WSL has had the better early game. However, with that last play, it feels like it stifled so much momentum. And Dewish team now looking so much more cautious than we saw a bit ago. And it does feel like this is just going to be a pure objective-based game, Clement. With, you know, Dewish team still looking for picks amongst River so that they can threaten that quick Baron we kind of touched on a little bit earlier.
Absolutely, and I feel like for Dewish team, you know, we talked about the strengths of Sivir, but on the other hand, the Sivir has a really hard time surviving these team fights. There are so many threats she needs to pay attention to, especially the WQ combo coming in from the Alistar. You know, that typically has been a sort of a soft counter to Sivir, because the spell shield, it will block out the W, and then you get knocked out by the Q. So it doesn't really help you in a lot of those times. I expect a lot of these team fights to hinge on split-second mechanics coming in from Elzy to see if he can survive the initial start of the fight coming in from Dewish.
I wonder if we'll get some utility pickups here from Houston as Husky takes a bit of poke damage, but WSL is on the path of, I guess, most aggression. The Dewish team still hover around looking for these picks. Minute 45 till Dragon. We're just going to pause and keep waiting because, again, nothing really happening outside of that. And when this matters so much, you can see that Dewish team know that this is their best opportunity to start challenging for a playoff spots in the penultimate week of the PCS. And for Impunity as well, right? Let's be real. Like, if they lose this game, they are in dire threats considering that they are on a 6-loss streak. And a lot of the games haven't shown to be, I guess, this close for them, considering this team of veterans has been so sloppy around the edges.
Yeah, I feel like there's been a number of issues hampering them. You know, bot lane communication has been one. The general comps that they've been building, I honestly felt like they've been kind of all over the place, which is to be expected when you're running a 10-man roster. But generally, Jackpot, I don't think he's shown up as strong as I assume Impunity might have hoped. Like, they try to play 4-1 around him, but whether it works or not is... I will say he's had some good individual games, but I don't think he is going to show up as a top 3 combo in the PCS.
Yeah.
That's the general feel I get.
Bang2, not what we see, but he's engaged. The Dewish team has to burn the flash out of Bang2, and how he's now frontlining. He's still got his own Summon's Heroes entrance as well, brings all 5 members in. Needlework is brutal as Jackpot sends out the final one. Thankfully, like Kunai's passive will save him, but just look at the wave gone and Impunity pulling the trigger with confidence.
This is huge for Impunity because it will set them up for an Infernal Dragon Soul Point here. 11 seconds on the clock. And this is going to be a very difficult one for Dewish team to fight. If you look at their carries here, Bang2, no flash, is going to have to keep a very far distance. And Kled without ultimate right here doesn't do much. I like this idea from Dewish team. It's to go to the other side of the map and look for a pick.
I mean, trying to get Alex as he moves up for vision, but as Jackpot hits the Dragon solo, moving them to Soul Point, that Supreme Display of Talent going to be down for a bit, and it's still a significant cooldown. As WSL wasn't in the last fight, and now without his ulti available, they use their abilities or mobility onto the fake Wukong. Dragon goes down, Impunity hover mid, but look at what Dewish team want to do. Force themselves around the Baron. It's quick, Clement. Is it going to be quick enough?
They're missing 3 ultimates onto this one. Impunity are missing even more, but this is so dangerous. Can they get away?
Smite steal, he got it!
Oh, no!
He got it, didn't even need the ulti. Jackpot gets the first kill as Huskies in the middle and Dewish team are getting obliterated. Over the wall, Alex is now going to cyclone up for the movement speed and Xiao2 to be knocked up with a Yuumi on top of him. Alex gets a shutdown on top of that. Impunity looking good to shut down their loss streak and denied Dewish team from climbing up to their spot.
Ooh, big question marks for me there. Sure, both teams were playing without a lot of ultimate, but Impunity have such good chase down. They had the Yuumi, they had the Sivir right there. I think even if Dewish team got the Baron, most of them would not have survived just running away from that situation. So for me, this was an extremely risky play. I think they were banking on the fact that Kunai might be a little bit late. In fact, he was just on time here. And of course, Alex, with the hero steal before the Emperor's Divide, really stop him, gets the Baron, and just look at Dewish team members. It's so difficult for them to actually get away from the monkey plus the cat combo.
Yeah, there's so much mobility with Cyclone as well. Like Alex, chase down beautiful and a nice smite steal that gives Impunity this game almost in the bag. A 3k gold lead, but Clement, as we talked about, Gwen is getting towards those dangerous items. Rabadon's comes next, which has been the go-to in 12-13, which will destroy Xiao2 and Bang2, taking half their health with that second or third needlework.
This is getting to the point where I feel like Dewish team are just lacking damage. If you look at the Sivir right now, I actually feel like Sivir would be fine just taking up the entire burst from Dewish team, and if she gets a rotation of Q and W down, she's probably done her job. That's enough damage to just wipe the entire team. So, Dewish team are in a holding pattern. The problem is, how are they going to deal with the Infernal Soul going over to Impunity? I think that's the big one where they're going to have to come out of their base.
Well, is the game going to even be going? Because at 29 minutes with the Baron buff, Impunity are doing so much damage to these inhibitor turrets. Dewish team struggling to defend as LZ is the one I'm looking at. Look at the ricochets, Clement. 8 bounces now. It can bounce to the same target again. As we have enough crit where LZ's boomerang blade is also significant. Xiao2 dealing with the top side wave while Impunity's onslaught being slowed down by the wave clear on Dewish team, but that Baron still has 30 seconds to go.
Huge opportunity for Impunity to just go in on their opposition, and I think they're about to pull the trigger as the tower drops.
Those two. Jackpot has the needlework forward. They go. Alex gets the knock up onto the Cune. The final chapter. He goes into mini Scar, but remember, as WSL brings out the supreme display of talent, his ultis have not done enough this game. LZ jumping forward ambitiously. So the hero's entrance executes Shao 2. Bang 2's got his defense, but which 2's going to be better here? I think Bang 2 with his final defense has got a lot of work to do as the Winds of War hurts, and it might even save the game, but Impunity get a 5,500 Baron power play at 30 minutes in the game off of that.
I gotta hand it to Shao 2 there, a hero play coming in from him, just finishing off LZ before he can do anything, and that stops the push right there. If LZ was alive, game over already. So at least they get one stop here. There's another stop coming up pretty soon. As we talked about, I just think Impunity at this point are just so strong. They're going to engage directly onto Lacuna, who's been behind the entire game. He does absolutely nothing in this situation. We even have a beautiful 3-man Everfrost coming out from the side.
New Civer, Clement. New Civer, you got to get used to it. Like when you remember old Fiddlesticks when you pressed E. Look at his damage. I mean, 5,200. It feels like old Fiddlesticks with Dark Wind when you're in lane, where it gets onto a champion and you're standing next to your support, and it just bounces a million times. Like, this is New Civer, and the ricochet is insane at these 3+ items. He's even got a GA now, so he's got so much survivability, and Shao 2, even if he gets that hero play again, LZ's got a lot of time to play with.
Absolutely. This next fight, I just don't see how it's winnable for Dewish team. I feel like they need to risk something, pull the trigger super fast, and just see if they can catch someone out.
Well, it depends on WSL then, doesn't it? Because that supreme display of talent since the early M hasn't been significant, but you know, there's another problem. Jackpot might want to end the game as WSL looks to take him. Charge is going to be used from downtown, but is it enough as Dewish team have come all the way out of the base? They're just like, no, you know what? We've got TP to get on back, but as Lacune goes back, the problem is it's going to be a 2v1. Jackpot has the needlework, and new needlework hurts so much. Jackpot takes him down, denies the next TP. Easily done, as Impunity are now J-Team's best friend. They will lock them into playoffs, make 8 the magic number, and end their